The first snow fell sideways, sharp as glass, the kind that makes the mountains go silent as if the world itself is holding its breath. On that morning, when the wind howled low and heavy across the valley, Sarah Whitaker stood alone beside her tiny log shelter, listening to laughter drift up from the road below. It wasn't cruel laughter at first, more like disbelief mixed with pity. Grown men shaking their heads, neighbors slowing their trucks just long enough to stare. Everyone thought the same thing. She won't last one winter. Sarah had heard it all before. She was 34, a Christian woman raised in rural Montana, stubborn in the quiet way that comes from surviving things you never talk about. After losing her husband in a construction accident and watching medical bills eat through everything they owned, Sarah had made a decision that seemed foolish to everyone else. She sold what little remained of the family house, bought a small patch of wooded land near the mountains, and built a shelter with her own hands. Thick logs, low ceiling, earth-packed walls, and a roof designed to trap heat instead of letting it escape. It was barely bigger than a garage. People called it a shed. Some called it a coffin. But Sarah called it home. If you believe in the silent hero and in second chances earned through courage and conviction, take a moment right now to like this video, comment, share it with someone who still believes in resilience, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this deserve to be told. Sarah hadn't built the shelter to impress anyone. She built it to survive. Years earlier, her father, a carpenter who taught her scripture and sawdust in equal measure, had explained how pioneers once used the land itself to protect them. Heat sinks, wind breaks, insulation through mass, not size. Those lessons stayed with her long after he passed. And when life stripped everything else away, they were what she had left. Still, the neighbors laughed. They laughed when she hauled logs alone. They laughed when she dug the foundation by hand. They laughed when winter warnings came early and she refused to leave. They offered couches, spare rooms, trailers, kind offers mixed with judgment. Sarah thanked them politely and stayed, because faith to her was not loud. It was quiet obedience to what you believed was right, even when it made you look foolish. By December, temperatures dropped lower than anyone expected. Weather radios crackled with words like Arctic front and historic system. Snowdrift swallowed fences. Power lines sagged, then snapped. One by one, houses in the valley went dark. Generators failed. Pipes burst. Panic crept in with the cold. The storm arrived in full force on a Sunday night. Wind screamed to the mountains at 60 miles an hour. Temperatures plunged to 30 below. Snow buried roads within hours. Emergency services stopped responding except for life-threatening calls. Families huddled in living rooms wearing coats and gloves, breath visible in the air. Wood stoves struggled. Heaters died. People prayed. Inside her tiny log shelter, Sarah sat quietly at her small table, a candle flickering, a kettle steaming gently on a compact stove. The walls radiated warmth back into the room. The roof held. The earth-packed sides blocked the wind entirely. The shelter did not creak or groan. It simply endured. Sarah slept that night. The next morning, the storm worsened. A white wall erased the landscape. Cell service vanished. Fear spread fast in the cold. An elderly couple down the road lost heat completely. A family with 2 small children ran out of firewood. Neighbors who once laughed now stood helpless, staring at frozen doors and useless thermostats. Sarah heard the knock just after sunrise. One knock became several. She opened the door to faces she recognized, tired, ashamed, frightened. Without words, she stepped aside. One by one, people entered the tiny shelter, stunned by the warmth. Steam rose from their coats. Hands thawed. Tears followed. Sarah brewed water, shared blankets, and listened as pride broke down into gratitude. By noon, word spread. The shelter that was supposed to fail had become the safest place in the valley. Sarah worked without rest. She guided neighbors back to their homes to help insulate windows, showed them how to block wind gaps, shared techniques her father taught her. She carried supplies through knee-deep snow. She prayed with those who asked. She held hands when words weren't enough. The storm lasted 4 days. By the time it passed, pipes were ruined, roofs collapsed, and vehicles were frozen in place. But no one in the valley died. and every single person knew why. When the roads finally cleared and power returned, the laughter was gone. Neighbors gathered outside Sarah's shelter, not to mock, but to thank. Some cried openly. Others stood in silence, humbled by the realization that wisdom does not always come dressed in comfort or approval. Local officials came. Reporters called. They wanted interviews, headlines, a symbol. Sarah declined most of it. She didn't want attention. She wanted people to learn. Over the next months, something shifted. People rebuilt smarter, smaller, warmer. Neighbors helped neighbors. Sarah was no longer the woman with the strange shelter. She was the one who stayed when leaving would have been easier. Churches invited her to speak. She talked about faith not as a miracle that saves you, but as preparation that carries you through. She talked about listening to God, to the land, to the quiet truths that don't trend online. Her shelter remained exactly the same. No expansion, no upgrades, just a small log home built on conviction. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that strength often whispers before it roars, please like this video, share it with someone who needs encouragement today, and subscribe to the channel so more stories like this can be told. Before the ending, we have one special request. Comment below and write quiet strength if you believe resilience doesn't need applause. Years later, when storms came, and they always did, people no longer laughed at what they didn't understand. They prepared. They listened. And sometimes when the wind howled to the valley and snow fell sideways again, a light still glowed warmly from a tiny log shelter on the mountain, reminding everyone that the right path is not always a popular one, but it is the one that lasts.